What if the most powerful empire in the world isn't even marked on a map? What if its walls aren't washed by oceans or guarded by armies, but hidden behind white stone and the silence of prayer? Today we're opening the doors to a world billions have only seen on postcards, but never truly understood. This isn't a myth, a fairy tale, or a movie. It's real. In the very heart of Rome lies a country no bigger than your local park, yet its wealth surpasses that of entire continents, and it's ruled by a man dressed in simple white robes, Pope Francis. He preaches humility. But behind him stands a secret kingdom where gold and faith intertwine, and history writes a new chapter every single day. Welcome to the hidden empire of Pope Francis. Get ready. What you're about to discover will shake you to your core. To millions around the world, Pope Francis is a symbol of modesty, simplicity, and spirituality. His image, a white cassock, humble shoes, gestures of kindness, and meals shared with regular workers in the cafeteria. In the eyes of the world, he embodies spiritual poverty, a man who has renounced material wealth for higher ideals. But what if behind that image lies an entirely different reality? The Vatican, from where Pope Francis leads his mission, isn't just a place of prayer. It's a state overflowing with unimaginable treasures, art collections worth billions, ancient relics once fought over in bloody wars, and real estate holdings across the globe valued at hundreds of billions of dollars. While Francis chooses to live in a modest guest house, just a few minutes away rise grand halls adorned with gold, Renaissance mosaics, and paintings by Michelangelo and Raphael. This isn't just beauty. It's the concentrated power and wealth of over 2,000 years of history. Each morning, he begins his day in a small room with a simple wooden desk. But beyond those walls lie assets powerful enough to rival empires. And all of it exists for one purpose: to protect faith, tradition, and the spiritual heritage of humanity. Still, a question remains. How does the humility of Pope Francis reconcile with the reality that he leads one of the wealthiest and most influential institutions in history? And what does this invisible empire truly look like from the inside? Long before he became the face of one of the world's most powerful spiritual empires, he was simply a boy named Jorge Mario Bergoglio. He was born in Buenos Aires into a humble Italian family. His father worked on the railroad. His mother was a homemaker. Their life was simple, honest, built on hard work and deep faith. Jorge didn't dream of luxury, thrones, or golden mitres. In his youth, he worked like any ordinary laborer, as a chemist in a food processing lab. He knew the value of hard work. He knew what it meant to have just enough food on the table, and perhaps it was this upbringing that nurtured the rare quality that would one day set him apart: genuine humility. But one day he heard a call that would change his life forever. In 1958, he joined the Jesuits, the most disciplined, demanding, and intellectually rigorous order in the Catholic Church. An order that teaches not just to believe, but to think, to fight, and to serve without holding anything back. In 1969, Jorge Mario Bergoglio was ordained a priest. His ministry wasn't about grandeur. It was about hard work, in the poorest neighborhoods, among people for whom the church wasn't a symbol of power, but a symbol of hope. Year after year, he rose through the ranks of the church's hierarchy. In 1998, he became the Archbishop of Buenos Aires. In 2001, he was named a cardinal, personally appointed by Pope John Paul II. Yet through it all, he remained the same man, choosing a small apartment over a lavish residence, cooking his own meals, riding the subway alongside everyday people. But everything changed on one fateful day, March 13, 2013. When white smoke rose above the Sistine Chapel, the world learned a new pope had been chosen. For the first time in history, it was a Jesuit, the first pope ever from Latin America, and the first to take the name Francis, after St. Francis of Assisi, the champion of the poor and the humble. The name itself was a declaration. His election was no accident. Francis had no desire to rule like a monarch in gilded robes. He wanted to be a shepherd, a servant, a man who didn't rise above the world but lived within it. And yet from that moment on, he became more than just the spiritual leader of 1.3 billion Catholics. He became a symbol of a new era: humility amid excess, humanity amid political intrigue, hope in an age of disillusionment. But how far does Pope Francis' power truly reach? And what secrets lie hidden within the Vatican he now leads? At first glance, the Vatican looks like nothing more than a beautiful postcard. St. Peter's Basilica, crowds of tourists, and brightly dressed Swiss guards. But if you look a little closer, you'll find one of the most unusual countries on earth hiding in plain sight. The Vatican isn't just a religious symbol, it's a fully sovereign nation, small, but officially recognized on the world stage. Its entire area covers just 44 hectares, about the size of a large city park in America. Fewer than 1,000 people live there, and citizenship isn't something you're born into. It's granted only to those who serve the Holy See, priests, monks, and guards. But behind those modest numbers lies a true engine of global influence. The Vatican has everything a true nation needs: its own currency, the euro, stamped with the image of the Pope; its own passport, one of the rarest in the world; its own postal service, its own police force, and even its own army. The Swiss Guard, founded back in the 16th century. Its own legal system and independent courts. On top of that, the Vatican maintains diplomatic relations with over 180 countries and operates its own embassies, called apostolic nunciatures, all over the globe. Through these diplomatic channels, the Pope can quietly influence political processes, offering dialogue where major powers often lose patience. And it's behind these walls, inside this tiny state, that decisions are made which can shape the fate of entire nations. But the most fascinating part isn't even that. The Vatican owns real estate around the world, from historic palaces in Rome to prestigious neighborhoods in London and New York. Its collections of art, relics, and historical documents are valued in sums that go far beyond ordinary economics. And its role in world history, from baptizing kings to mediating between warring nations, remains underestimated by most people. And all of it is overseen by one man in white robes who carries two titles at once: the head of the church, the head of a state. This is a silent empire, where decisions aren't made under the roar of cannons, but beneath domes painted by the hands of geniuses. But what exactly lies hidden behind the ancient walls of the Vatican? What treasures are tucked away in halls forever closed to the public eye? Beyond the white walls of the Vatican lies not just the spiritual center of Catholicism. It holds the most mysterious and the most priceless collection of treasures in human history. This isn't just an art collection. It's the heartbeat of eternity, locked in gold, stone, and ancient manuscripts. Deep within the Vatican, behind heavily guarded doors, lie relics believed to be tied to Jesus Christ himself, a fragment of the true cross, encased in a golden reliquary adorned with sapphires and rubies, a relic so sacred that it's only shown to the world a few times each century. The Holy Lance, the spear said to have pierced Christ's side, rests in a gilded setting, marked with a cross at its base. Veronica's veil, the legendary cloth believed to bear the miraculous imprint of Christ's face. And none of these sacred objects can be measured in dollars. Their true worth is not in numbers, but in the faith of billions. And that's just the beginning. Beneath the marble floors of the Vatican lies the Apostolic Library, a true treasury of human knowledge. Over 1.6 million books, ancient manuscripts, written centuries before the invention of the printing press. Documents ranging from correspondence with Abraham Lincoln to the private letters of Napoleon. Hidden from almost all eyes, these archives protect secrets that could rewrite world history. And of course, the Vatican museums themselves, a priceless collection of human creativity. The Sistine Chapel with Michelangelo's breathtaking frescoes, a ceiling under which the fate of the church is decided. Raphael's School of Athens, a hymn to human reason, written into the very walls. Laocoon and his sons, a sculpture frozen in an eternal scream. The very walls of the Vatican are steeped in treasures whose combined value exceeds $100 billion. But in truth, their real worth is infinite, because what's stored here isn't just material wealth. It's the memory, the faith, and the hope of countless generations. And here's what's truly remarkable. Despite all this splendor, Pope Francis has remained true to his vow of humility. He lives in a small apartment, wears a simple cassock, and reminds the world that the true value of treasure isn't in outward grandeur, but in service to people. But how has this empire evolved over time? And how is Pope Francis steering the Vatican through the storms of the 21st century, an era of crises, reforms, and transformation? Behind the grand halls, the ancient frescoes, and the golden domes, there's another side of the Vatican, one that many preferred to keep hidden. Financial scandals, secret deals, problems with transparency. And when Pope Francis ascended to the Holy See, he saw it all without illusions. Many expected the new pope to be just a symbolic figure, but Francis chose a different path, the path of a reformer. He started with the hardest challenge of all: money. In 2014, Francis established the Secretariat for the Economy, aiming for the first time in Vatican history to bring true financial accountability. Audits were conducted. New rules for asset management were introduced. Every dollar, from revenues to expenses to pension funds, came under strict oversight. He struck at the very top of the power structure. He cut the salaries of cardinals. He eliminated bonuses for high-ranking officials. He ordered the Holy See's assets to be transferred into state-controlled funds to end secretive backroom dealings. He faced fierce resistance. Not everyone inside the ancient system welcomed transparency. Some called him a dangerous revolutionary, others, a savior. But Francis didn't stop. His reforms went far beyond ledgers and balance sheets. He opened the church's doors to real conversations about protecting the environment, defending refugee rights, and fighting for social justice. He championed interfaith dialogue in places where only walls had stood for centuries. He condemned spiritual arrogance and called the church to return to what it was meant to be: a home for all, not a fortress for the chosen few. And he did all of this while staying true to his principles, living in the modest St. Martha's guest house instead of the lavish papal palace, choosing simple cars over luxury vehicles, personally answering letters from children all over the world. Pope Francis showed that even the oldest and most powerful organization on earth can change, if led by someone who believes in change more than he fears it. But here's the real question. How can Pope Francis, a man without an army, without gold, without threats, influence entire nations, broker global deals, and shape history? In a world where diplomats gather around heavy tables and presidents sign treaties under flashing cameras, one man works differently. No army, no threats, no pressure. Only moral authority, only a word backed by the weight of centuries. And that man is Pope Francis. In 2014, he accomplished what many thought was impossible. While the world watched the frozen hostility between the US and Cuba, Francis was quietly exchanging letters with Barack Obama and Raul Castro. Behind the scenes, without grand announcements, he arranged secret meetings inside the Vatican. And it was thanks to these quiet efforts that, after half a century of hostility, two nations began the process of restoring diplomatic relations. Not politicians, not generals. The Pope. In 2015, Francis once again shifted the global conversation, this time in defense of the entire planet. He issued the encyclical Laudato Si, where, for the first time in history, the Church declared, "Climate change is a moral issue, and it is every person's duty to protect our common home." The document shook not only the religious world, it became part of global negotiations and helped shape the Paris Climate Agreement. The Pope wasn't just praying for peace, he was influencing the decisions of presidents and prime ministers. In 2021, Francis took another unprecedented step. He traveled to Iraq, a land torn apart by war and conflict. There, he met with the great Shiite spiritual leader, Grand Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani. Their meeting became a symbol of reconciliation between Muslims and Christians, a gesture the world had awaited for decades. And all of it, not a show of strength, but a show of humanity. No armies, no ultimatums, only faith in the possibility of peace. But Francis's diplomacy doesn't end with public acts. It moves silently, threading its way through negotiations on refugees, into dialogues about human rights, into conversations about justice and equality. Where loud slogans fail, his quiet voice becomes the catalyst for real change. Pope Francis isn't just a spiritual leader. He is the architect of a new moral geopolitics, built on compassion, dialogue, and respect. And yet, behind all these missions, one essential question remains. How can a tiny nation like the Vatican, with fewer than 1,000 citizens, hold such unimaginable power and possess such treasures? And what exactly lies hidden behind its walls? Treasures we know almost nothing about. You already know the Vatican is more than just a spiritual center. But now, we're about to reveal 5 facts that will astonish you even more. Fact number 5. 60 years of isolation. Popes imprisoned within their own walls. After the unification of Italy in 1870, Pope Pius IX refused to recognize the new government. He shut himself away inside the Vatican, declaring himself a prisoner of the Apostolic Palace. And for nearly 60 years, the popes never set foot outside Vatican territory, a complete break from the outside world. It wasn't until 1929, with the signing of the Lateran Treaty with the Italian government, that the Vatican's independence was officially recognized. Fact number 4. Benito Mussolini, the man who legally created the Vatican. A paradox of history, it was the fascist leader Mussolini who signed the Lateran Treaty, making the Vatican a fully independent state. In exchange for recognition, the Church received compensation, a sum equivalent to over $1 billion in today's money. A dark and controversial chapter, rarely spoken of openly. Fact number 3. The smallest, yet one of the most elite armies in the world, the Swiss Guard. Their colorful uniforms might be deceiving. In reality, the Swiss Guards are highly trained professional fighters. Each one must be a Swiss citizen, a practicing Catholic, a former member of the Swiss military, under the age of 30, and they must be ready to give their lives to protect the Pope. Fact number 2. A country without a maternity ward and without native citizens. There are no hospitals in the Vatican. No children are born there. Citizenship is granted only for the duration of service, and it's automatically lost once that service ends. In the end, this tiny state has no native population in the traditional sense. It is a nation built for a mission. Fact number 1. One of the most valuable art collections in the world. The Sistine Chapel, works by Raphael, Leonardo da Vinci, Caravaggio. All these masterpieces are concentrated within just a few city blocks. Even by the most conservative estimates, the collection is worth tens of billions of dollars. But its true value is immeasurable, because these works helped shape civilization itself. 5 facts. 5 proofs that the Vatican isn't just a country. It's a legend, carved in stone, gold, and faith. Yet behind all these facts stands one deeper, more essential question. How does Pope Francis carry the weight of such wealth, power, and history? And is it truly possible to balance a billion-dollar legacy with genuine service to humanity? In a world where rulers measure power in tanks, territories, and billions of dollars, there exists one man who rules differently. Not with swords, not with laws, not with golden crowns, but with words, with faith, and by example. Pope Francis stands at the head of the richest spiritual nation on earth. Behind him lie treasures worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Under his influence stretches a diplomatic network spanning the globe. At his side stands an army sworn to protect him to their last breath. And yet he chooses the path of humility. He lives among treasures, but not for them. He manages wealth that could shift entire economies, yet he uses it to serve the world. When Francis signs a letter to world leaders, it echoes louder than a million protesters. When he steps into a crowd in a simple white cassock, behind him stand centuries of tradition and billions of hearts. When he prays for peace, he speaks not for a nation with armies, but for the most powerful army of faith the world has ever known. It's a paradox that stuns the mind. The greatest power of our time belongs to a man who chose weakness. The greatest wealth belongs to a man who chose poverty. And maybe, just maybe, that's the true secret of the Vatican. Not the gold, not the marble, not even the ancient relics, but the ability to remind the world that true power is not the right to rule. It's the duty to serve. What surprised you the most about this hidden empire? The sacred relics? The secret diplomacy? Or the quiet strength of humility that outshines kings? Drop a comment below and let me know what amazed you the most, and don't forget to subscribe. Together we'll keep uncovering the secrets hidden behind the strongest walls in history.